But I will read the synopsis for you real quick. But if you're ever wondering where something like this comes from, or anything like this comes from, always go back and look for the strategic plan of the agency funding it, because you can always then find it very, very easily why some of these things end up showing up. So I figured this might be a useful time to talk about something that's not the news, but to show a little something that is probably useful to understand if you ever go looking for information on why why different funding agencies um why different funding agencies request proposals related to specific topics and where that all comes from. The National Science Foundation, like many other agencies, any other entity that funds scientific research, has their strategic plan, has their basically blueprint for how are they going to move forward for the next few years. And what I have up here is it was released a little while ago, the NSF's 2022 to 2026 strategic plan. So this is how NSF is going to be guiding themselves and what they're going to fund and why they're going to fund it. Because that's the more important thing. Is it does also talk about the why they are going to be putting out certain things in the strategic plan. And I bring this up because, well, on the one hand, because of the idea that, scientific knowledge belongs to everybody. And I also do think it's a good, important thing that everyone be able to find such things like this and be able to, to read through them, to dissect them, to understand what's going on and why. Because, understand this in particular is a federal government entity, which means ultimately they are paid for by your tax dollars if you're in the United States. And they are also spending your tax dollars, sending them to scientists at different universities, at non-governmental organizations, at businesses, consulting services, contractors, things like that. And so I think it is relevant always, if we're talking about scientific knowledge belonging to everyone, understanding why such things get funded and why they don't, and why such grants get requested. So it's a little change of pace because I don't usually talk about things like this. I usually talk about things that are going on in the news and what it is about science and what have you. But I thought this would be useful, and it does relate to something that's going on that a contact sent me some time ago, but I figured it didn't deserve a video by itself necessarily. So strategic plans are guiding documents. They're the results of a tremendous amount of back and forth within an agency, in consultation with folks outside the agency, what things are needed, what kind of research is needed, what kind of plans and directions we go, larger big picture kind of things. They're not very specific in terms of what kinds of research the National Science Foundation will fund. They leave that up to the different directorates in this case. Under the National Science Foundation, there's different directorates that fund different types of research, and that's everything from chemistry, physics, all the way through to the social sciences and so on. And so you see, National Science Foundation funds just about every type of research there is. It is one of the biggest funders of research of the federal government agencies. But there's a lot in here, and of course it changes every few years exactly what the kind of plan going forward is going to be. And this, of course, is, it will wraps from this year into 4 years from now, is the way they've structured this one. Not all the agencies are structured the same way. Agencies under Department of Energy and Agriculture and all the rest will have different structure for how they write their strategic plans and out of which section of the agency in commerce or interior or agriculture, all the rest, gets funded. Well, no. Which one does the funding? Excuse me. So like, there's different entities in energy. There's different entities in commerce. There's different entities in interior and agriculture that do research funding. But they all fall under the different, with the exception of the NSF. NSF is kind of its own thing. All fall under one of the cabinet level positions. So, yeah, and this is important legalese to recognize right away here. So let me zoom in on this real quick, because this is the purpose of things like the strategic plan, according to the legal side of it. The quote, Government Performance and Results Act, the GPRA, Public Law 103-62, and the GPRA Modernization Act of 2010, Public Law 111-352, require federal agencies to develop strategic plans setting forth long-term goals and objectives. Guidance on the development of agency strategic plans is included in the Office of Management and Budget Circular A11. These plans form part of the federal framework, quote, leading the world in discovery and innovation, STEM, talent development, and delivery of benefits from research updates, and replaces building the future, investing in discovery and innovation, NSF strategic plan for fiscal years 2018 to 2022. It has been prepared by NSF staff working with the National Science Board and with input from science, engineering, and education research communities, industry, and others. Which is basically to say, this is the legal disclaimer, this is why we have to do this. This is the one previous strategic plan that we did that is now being replaced by this one. This is the current NSF director. Things like that. Okay, so as with anything, of course, these are not small documents. This is 72 pages, as you can see right up here in the corner. But it's kind of important to look at some of these key things. And if you're going to go in here and you just need like a broad overview of what's going on, you need to look at the vision, you need to look at the mission, and you'd start with things like the core values and what have you. And then from there, you can decide, what other things do I want to look at? So let's go down here. There's, of course, always the about. There's the about NSF. NSF's mission to keep this in mind, that this is the official mission of the National Science Foundation. To promote the progress of science, to advance the national health, prosperity, and welfare, to secure the national defense, and for other purposes. There's a catch-all. NSF promotes the progress of science by investing in research to expand knowledge in science, engineering, and education. NSF also invests in actions that increase the capacity of the U.S. to conduct and exploit such research. That's pretty boilerplate. NSF advances the national health, prosperity, and welfare through the contributions that NSF-funded research makes. For example, NSF research has made possible many of the technological advances that have improved medicine, communications, transportation, manufacturing, and the utilization of natural resources, together with the broad range of other impacts on our lives. NSF's contributions to securing the national defense includes research in cryptography, cybersecurity, novel materials, advanced analytics for massive datasets, artificial intelligence, environmental change, quantum information systems, and advanced manufacturing, to name just a few. The National Science Foundation advances the frontiers of research, creates pathways to success for students and researchers, provides infrastructure and instruments to enable discovery, and encourages learning everywhere. Since NSF's inception in 1950, the 2,000-person agency has invested in cutting-edge research and talented people who explore the unknown, seek to demystify nature, and expand the understanding of science and engineering. NSF is committed to making science accessible and deepening the understanding of science by all Americans. Now, that's in the about kind of things here, and that's actually pretty tame. And if you want some budget numbers to make sure folks understand, here, FY21 data corresponds to NSF investments. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. So, 93% of it funds research, education, and related activities. The fiscal year 2022 budget for the National Science Foundation was $8.8 billion of your taxpayer dollars. 43,600 proposals evaluated that year, 2,000 projects funded, 11,300 awards of NSF funds, 318,000 people NSF supported. I'm kind of wondering where they get that number, to be honest. $1.5 billion towards STEM education, $181 million to seed public-private partnerships, and 253 NSF Nobel Prize winners, NSF-funded Nobel Prize winners. So obviously touting their good stuff. NSF's strategic plan aligns with national priorities such as pandemic response, economic recovery, racial equity, and addressing climate change. Here's where we get into the thing. Understand, this is an agency, and it is somewhat controlled by whatever administration's in charge. It advances the roadmap laid out in the NSB Vision 2030 report, delivering the benefits from research, developing STEM talent, expanding the geography of innovation, and leading globally by cultivating a global science and engineering community based on shared values and strategic cooperation. To accomplish all this, NSF is focusing on people as the heart of its research enterprise. Investments in people are the key to strengthening the science and engineering community, which you'll see S and E often in a document like this. You'll get acronyms in here, so you got to pay attention for some of the acronyms because sometimes they're not great. NSF pursues the following 4 strategic goals. Goal number 1, empower. Empower STEM talent to fully participate in science and engineering. Goal 2, discover, create new knowledge about our world and ourselves. Goal 3, impact benefiting society. Oh, shoot, here we go. Benefiting society by translating knowledge into solutions. Excel at NSF operations and management. You would think that would just be a normal thing of day to day to begin with. And frankly, for me, being a scientist who's interested in the pursuit of the truth, this first one should be the primary thing. Yeah, and you'll see a lot of these kinds of summary things in here. Nation that leads the world. So vision is nation, mission, core values. There you go. NSF's strength is scientific leadership. We value diversity and inclusion, demonstrate integrity and excellence in our devotion to public service, and prioritize innovation and collaboration in our support of the work of the scientific community and of each other. I would prefer it if, these kinds of things were up there first as what you value above all else. Okay. Vision, mission. Okay, I actually want to skip down to the core values stuff. There we go. NSF's core values are essential and enduring tenets that guide everyone in the organization as we support the agency's mission. They have been developed with the active engagement of NSF staff. These values identify who we are and what is important to us. They guide us and they guide how we make our decisions, set priorities, address challenges, manage trade-offs, and recruit and develop personnel and work together with our awardees. Bear in mind that NSF's primary thing is awarding money to everybody else. Just remember that. That's one of the biggest things that NSF does, is there's actually very, very few people, if at all, at NSF who do specifically research themselves in that professional capacity as an NSF employee. What do I mean by that? You'll have reviewers, you'll have staff that are not necessarily paid by NSF to help with anything, but they're reviewing proposals for NSF. They are researchers somewhere else at a different university, or a different business, or a different NGO, or something along that line, or even in different agency in the federal government. NSF's core values. Okay. Scientific leadership. We support the expansion of the frontiers of knowledge and integration of that knowledge into industry and education. Nothing about the pursuit of the truth. I would have preferred that myself. Diversity and inclusion. We value the knowledge, skills, abilities, experiences, and perspectives that colleagues from different backgrounds bring to our work and workplace. We recognize that these things strengthen NSF's ability to fulfill its mission. We strive to maintain a staff that is representative of the broader national community. We support outstanding researchers and innovative thinkers from across our nation's diversity of regions, organizations, and demographic groups. Word salad. Lots of word salad. And frankly, I would hope that this is not in order of importance necessarily, because that's not as important as the one after it necessarily, which is integrity and excellence. We hold each other and our awardees to the highest standards of ethical behavior. We strive to ensure the trustworthiness of the results of NSF-funded research. We ensure decisions are fairly made and communicated respectfully. We maintain the highest standards in merit review, financial management, award administration, and business operations. We use rigorous review by experts to ensure that only the best ideas are funded. We apply new and creative ideas to improve our process and our impact. Public service. We value our role as public servants who enable the research community to identify new paths for expanding knowledge and addressing societal challenges. Where is the fundamental purpose of science represented in this? One could argue perhaps in the expanding knowledge thing that they say here, but I don't see anything here saying that they value the pursuit of the truth, which is, as I've said many times, the fundamental telos of being a scientist, if you're doing research in particular, is the pursuit of the truth. It's the pursuit of the truth, not some generic thing of expanding knowledge, which you can argue you're doing that with research, yes, but not even addressing societal challenges is necessarily the primary telos of a scientist, or I should say, is the telos of a scientist. It's not. Innovation and collaboration. We apply new and creative ideas to improve our processes and our impact. We work in a collaborative enterprise where teamwork is essential. We value the perspectives and values of our colleagues, recognize that combining our knowledge enables us to find more robust solutions, and acknowledge the contributions that we make to our shared success. We're committed to listening, communicating effectively, and working collegially. We share both ideas and responsibilities with colleagues in pursuit of common goals. What is the most common goal of all? Pursuit of the truth, you would hope. So, this is something that all sounds nice. And, in theory, yeah, it sounds fantastic and lovely. I'll show you an example in a minute of why I don't think it's necessarily what NSF intends, is the idea of having diverse perspectives. Or actually engaging in stuff. Well, let's put it this way. I think NSF might just be interested in a DEI program, or DEI as it comes to the idea that, in the sense of the vein that we know doesn't work. There's plenty of sociology papers on the thing that is DEI today that we know doesn't work at all. Totally other thing. Contextual factors in here. Contextual factors, dynamic content, knowledge mobilization. So there's a lot in here, and I'm obviously not going to go through it all now, but I encourage you to go take a look at it if you're curious to understand why certain things come out the way they do with NSF and with others. Oh yeah, there we go. Strategic goals and objectives. So when you ever see these strategic planning kinds of things, you will see these kinds of tables crop up where you have the strategic goal that they list. In this case, they have 4 of them. And you'll also see, okay, how are we going to meet that? What are the objectives underneath of it, right? So let's look at the first one, the empower goal, for instance. Empower STEM talent to fully participate in science and engineering. Okay. Ensure accessibility and inclusivity. Increase the involvement of communities underrepresented in STEM and enhance capacity throughout the nation. Unleash STEM talent for America. Grow a diverse STEM workforce to advance the progress of science and technology. Okay, those are their 2 strategic objectives for that. And they go on to show these lovely graphics about representation and what have you. Yes. Let's see. Our nation's STEM workforce must reflect the diversity of our society. So this comes from their first strategic objective. This is essential for the emergence of a rich set of ideas, and so on. Students' socioeconomic or demographic background should not be a limiting factor in their choosing to earn a STEM degree or in support of that pursuit. Through programs such as Advance, and NSF includes inclusion across the nation of communities of learners, of underrepresented discoverers in engineering and science, and their successors. NSF fosters institutional transformation within research and educational organizations so the nation can capitalize on the talents and ideas of all segments of the population through its research training activities. NSF invests in the broad diversity of the STEM talent, aiming to advance racial equity and a STEM workforce that is more representative of our nation. So, again, I'm not going to spend all my time going all the way through this, but I want to show you one of the things that results from this. The other one here, talent is found throughout the United States. NSF's established program to stimulate competitive research, at its core, is an example of a program that seeks to expand the geography of innovation by expanding research capacity in states and territories that receive relatively small proportions of the federal research budget. NSF will expand its efforts to ensure all parts of the U.S. participate in the 21st century science and engineering enterprise. So there's a lot of things in here that I would point out that immediately make me consider that, for one thing, NSF is going with a DEI program that is likely not to do well, because it's working with the stuff that literature has already shown doesn't necessarily work well at all. To maximize the impact of its research training, NSF works to increase the range of institutions it supports, through tailored capacity building programs, NSF enhances the ability of specialized institutions to draw diverse communities into research and the STEM workforce. Specialized programs can also help the nation meet emergent needs for a workforce trained in the new results of research areas such as cybersecurity, quantum information service, and AI. I do not know what I do not know what quantum information service is. Let me show you this, though. That thing that I was just there with, this strategic thing where you were just reading about racial equity in the STEM workforce. Here's what that comes out and translates into when you're talking about NSF actually funding things. Racial equity in STEM education, program solicitation from the National Science Foundation, rotating proposal deadlines. This is coming up for January 1st, and then it's going to be a regular repeat thing for full proposals to be turned in every October after that. All proposals should conceptualize systemic racism within the context of their proposal and describe how the proposed work will advance scholarship of racial equity and address systemic racism. All proposals should have a knowledge generation component. Isn't that the point of a research project to begin with? All proposals should be led by or in authentic partnership with those who experience inequities caused by systemic racism. All proposals should center the voices, knowledge, and experiences of those who experience inequities caused by systemic racism. Did they even consult the sociology research at all when they wrote this? Anyway. Let's see. Solicitation replaces proposals may request a total maximum project budget of $5 million. Proposals may request up to a total maximum duration of 5 years. $5 million per project, mind you. This is NSF funding it. The project summary should provide an overview of the work with clear indication of the central issue or purpose of the project, specify how the project addresses the solicitation-specific review criteria, and address broader impact and intellectual merit. It should include a list of 5 keywords that best describe the central issue or purpose, theory, research, methodology. Any specific STEM disciplinary content that is to be studied and stakeholder communities as appropriate. Lovely typo in your solicitation, NSF. But again, I'm not going to read all the way through this, but you can get why I don't think NSF is actually thinking about it, because for one thing, the systemic racism thing, if you read the first 2 chapters of discrimination and disparities, you can figure out real quick why that's a mess. You can figure it out real quick why that's a mess. But I will read the synopsis for you real quick. But if you're ever wondering where something like this comes from, or anything like this comes from, always go back and look for the strategic plan of the agency funding it, because you can always then find it very, very easily why some of these things end up showing up. So, program title, Racial Equity in STEM Education. The solicitation aligns with the NSF and the Directorate for Education and Human Resources' long-standing investments in the development of a diverse and well-prepared public and workforce, which was recently reinforced in the NSF vision. The NSF strategic plan focuses on ensuring that U.S. research is an inclusive enterprise that benefits from the talents of all sectors of American society, a research enterprise that incorporates the rich demographic and geographic diversity of the nation. Does that sound familiar? The strategic plan recognizes that the more people who engage in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics research, and the more diverse their backgrounds, the richer the range of questions asked. The result is a greater breadth of discovery and more creative solutions to societal challenges. Racial inequities often create barriers to STEM knowledge generation, as well as access to and participation in all aspects of STEM education, research, and the workforce. Where's the citation? In ongoing efforts to address these disparities, NSF-EHR seeks to support bold, groundbreaking, and potentially transformative projects that contribute to advancing racial equity in STEM education. and workforce development through practice and or fundamental or applied research. EHR's mission builds from the NSF strategic plan, seeking to, quote, achieve excellence in U.S. science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education at all levels and in all settings, both formal and informal, in order to support the development of a diverse and well-prepared workforce of scientists, technicians, engineers, mathematicians, and educators, and a well-informed citizenry that have access to the ideas and tools of science and engineering. The purpose of these activities is to enhance the quality of life of all citizens and the health, prosperity, welfare, and security of the nation. Collectively, proposals funded by this solicitation will 1. Substantively contribute to institutionalizing effective research-based practices, policies, and outcomes in STEM environments for those who experience inequities caused by systemic racism and the broader community. 2. Advance scholarship and promote racial equity in STEM in ways that expand the array of epistemologies, perspectives, ideas, theoretical and methodological approaches that NSF funds. And 3, further diversify project leadership, PIs and co-PIs, and institutions funded by NSF. Each proposal should include a rigorous plan to generate knowledge and or evidence-based practice via fundamental or applied research. Projects may focus on, but are not limited to, building theory, developing research, evaluation, and assessment methods, conducting pilot projects and feasibility studies, testing approaches and interventions, assessing the potential efficacy, effectiveness, and scalability of approaches and interventions, changing institutional, organizational, and structural practices and policies, establishing, cultivating, and assessing authentic partnerships with communities impacted by systemic racism, conducting meta-analyses, pardon it, it's a tongue twister right there, and systematic literature reviews, convening conferences that explore a theory, topic, method, or issue related to the program goals in order to drive research and practice forward, and or focusing on effective behavioral, cultural, social components, and implications. Prospective PIs are encouraged to send a one-page concept paper to in advance of submitting a proposal. Okay. In other words, here comes more racial equity stuff in STEM. But you know where it comes from? It always comes from these strategic plans. So, frankly, if STEM folks don't want this, which I suspect there's a lot of STEM folks who are really hesitant about some of this stuff, particularly lately, I suggest speaking up about it. But the more the point, though, there's a lot of interesting things, and if you're ever wondering about why a organization is funding some particular kind of research, always look at a strategic plan, or more importantly, why they are asking for proposals on that specific kind of research. That's it for now. Hopefully this little explainer was helpful. If you liked it, hit the like button on the way out the door, comment on the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, all that lovely good jazz. And until next time, I'm Adrian. Stay curious, everybody.